Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Dr. Larissa van As. I'm a naturopathic doctor and kinesiologist and wellness educator in Vancouver. So I have a practice in Burnaby and also a practice in downtown Vancouver that focuses mainly on chronic pain and women's health. So Maya and I can chat hormones all day, any day.
Bet. You,
Yeah,
you bet.
yeah. And
Exactly.
and my for maybe some of my followers and people that don't know you, do you want to give us a little background?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Dr. Maya Matthews. I'm also a naturopathic doctor, living in Vancouver area, and I mostly have an online practice, and so that allows me to reach everyone across British Columbia. My focus in particular is, yes, women's health, but I've really been diving into helping women come off birth control pills, hormonal contraceptives, IUDs, because they get this tipping point where they're like, I don't feel like myself anymore. And they
Yes.
don't know how, they don't know what the next steps are. And my own personal experience bopping around the medical system, coming off the pill, coming off the IUD, I've done it all. And that's really been my passion recently.
I like the term bopping.
You
Right,
know what?
right.
That's kind of what you do sometimes.
You know what it is? I think people bop around when they're trying to figure it out themselves and they just don't actually have like a strategic plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's also like I've kind of been thinking about this a lot more. My own personal experience exactly bopping around. You go to your GP who sends you to an endocrinologist to get your thyroid checked out. And then
Hmm.
your GP also sends you to your gastroenterologist because your gut is just funky and not having a fun time.
Yes.
And they're such specialists and they're such experts. And I absolutely love how deep these individuals, practitioners can dive into. But sometimes you get to a point where you're diving in so deep that you forget, like, what's the forest from the trees? Like, I'm really not,
Yeah.
you know that metaphor?
No, but I like any tree metaphors here for it.
It's like this, like, you've got such a magnifying glass into someone's health, which is so important. It's so needed. But when you're not able to zoom out and see that whole person for what they are, which is a constellation of thyroid and gut and stress
Yeah.
and hormones and skin and like all of these things, when you can't zoom out, I feel like that's what makes people bop around to different practitioners.
Yeah, and I think like that's such a beautiful part of at least my practice, and I think your practice as well, is we have the ability to like a photograph or like a drone, right? Just like zoom out on someone's health. Like, okay, what I'm seeing is this big puzzle, and you're missing a piece over here and a piece over here and a piece over here, instead of just being like zoomed in and missing the whole picture itself, right?
Yeah, and I know you as a person, like that is what your absolute passion is. Like if I have a problem with business, if I have a problem with, I go to Larissa because she just zooms the fuck out and she knows all of these moving pieces and you're so able to piece these together. And that's kind of a passion of yours, eh? Like you've talked to me about health with like it's almost a puzzle.
It's such a weird, like, to explain what we do, I think, as naturopathic doctors is difficult in general because we just have a range of things we're interested in. But when I try to describe it to people, that's exactly what it is. I'm like, everyone's health is a puzzle. And if we just take a second and we step back, and I think even when it's your own health, when you're in it, it's
I
hard.
cannot get out. Yeah,
I,
you need someone else to be like, this is happening, this is happening. Let's bring you out of
yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah. So if you can work with someone that can actually take a step back and look at your whole health picture instead of just like zooming into the one issue. Often there's, greater things going on, but there is an underlying root cause. So I always look at my patients and clients that come in, their health to me is like this big puzzle. And I just like take a step back and I look at the big picture first, and then we can zoom in and figure out which pieces are missing. And maybe they're just in the wrong spot and they need to move a little bit. But
Yeah, and that's kind of the distinction with holistic care. Like, and that's why we're having this chat today to really talk and dive into, but not dive too deep because then you get lost, but really dive into this like what it takes to treat hormones on a holistic level.
yes.
And I think that first aspect is you're not treating hormones. You're treating the woman in front of you. You're treating the person in front of you.
Oh,
And like
yeah.
right? Like women come to me because they've got shitty periods and their energy is down the toilet and they're stressed AF and they just can't even like, there's just this vibe and I can't get any success if I just dive into hormones.
But it's often never just
Never.
hormones. And I
Right. Right? So what is that holistic viewpoint? Like, why is that special? Why is that important? How does that come into how we practice?
Yeah. Well, I'll start because our focuses are, although we both align so deeply on how we care for our patients, I think, in our approach, we actually, and we both work in women's health, we do very different things, which is cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're different people. We attract different people. It's just how she goes.
And Forrest. Yeah, I'll start, and then Maya, I would be super curious to hear your approach from more of like a post
Definitely.
pill, post contraceptive lens. Um, but for me, the holistic approach comes in. So my practice has really started to blend chronic pain with hormones and women's health. And often when we're actually digging into root cause, it's not just hormones. So estrogen might be off, progesterone might be off, cortisol, right, your stress hormone might be off. But when we look under that, is it because there's nervous system dysregulation, because there's stress? Um, is there mold toxicity? Is there something inflaming the body? Um, I work with a lot of endometriosis, right? So it's an immune system dysregulation with downstream effects of hormones, but it's not necessarily the hormones that are the root cause, right? And so we have to backtrack and figure out, why is the immune system dysregulated? And this is what I mean by whole picture. We can't just like pick one thing and be like, oh, it's estrogen only. Not
So then
off.
how do we go about um explaining that to the people that we're working with? Like they come in like, yeah, I've got shitty periods, but why are you working on my digestion?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your approach with that?
I'm such a nerd that I will explain the pathway.
Do you bring out like a chart and be like, this goes here and this goes here?
Yeah, it's like connecting the dots. If you think about it like a big whiteboard, right? And there's different pieces, and we have string. We're just like connecting different things. I
Yeah.
usually like estrogen in the gut, for example, right?
Mhm.
So, and Maya knows this too because I know you work intensely on people's gut health as well. But if we explain that, okay, when estrogen actually has to get detoxed out of the body, it has to go through the liver, it has to go through other processes to make it get eliminated, and it gets eliminated through the gut. And when your gut bugs are healthy, it eliminates it properly. When they're not, it actually recycles estrogen back into your body instead of eliminating it. So I think if we can just take the time and explain the connections to people, and I'm a nerd, so I'll like nerd out about physiology all day.
Yep.
Um, I also think people are really grateful when, you know, you can not only listen to them, but um, explain why potentially there might be some interactions going on. And it's not this confusing, hey, I have 10 different things going on. It's like, well, maybe 10 different symptoms and downstream effects, but really, if we can narrow it down, it's actually not that overwhelming.
Definitely. And it's that like it's this mix of, my biggest passion, you know what lights me up, you know what gets me fired up
What?
is being able to give women their power back. And you do that by explaining and helping them understand what their body's doing and validating what they're going through. And like when I'm able to help someone stand on their own feet again, not rely on me, not rely on a doctor, not rely on supplements, that lights me up. And I want to see like this, it's just this huge rush of, you can fucking do it, girl. Like you're doing great. And that's what really is my huge passion. And that's kind of where explaining, just like you said, explaining this is what's happening with your gut microbiome. This is why your estrogen's being recirculated. This is why you need to poop more than once a
Yeah.
day, ideally. You eat 3 times a day, you should be pooping 3 times a day. And then you kind of see this light bulb go off, and they're like, oh, I had no idea. I didn't know. So of course, like, unfortunately, this information is not really all that available to women or is reputable or is accurate, and making that information available is something you and I are both super passionate about.
Mhm.
And when we can share that understanding of what your body's actually doing, that's when women can start taking their own steps forward and not relying on, this like doctor is up here, patients up here. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. No. You are the boss. Like, you are the boss here. I'm just guiding you. And ultimately, you're the one doing the work. You're the one telling me what's going on. I'm just deciphering that I speak the language of hormones, but you still have to tell me what your hormones are saying.
That is such a beautiful line,
It
Maya. Yeah.
wasn't mine, but thank
Well,
you.
I mean, you can I told you that, but that was a beautiful
Right?
line.
Because that's what we're doing. We're interpreting what the body's saying, but we also need to encourage women to form that connection with what their body is trying to
Yeah.
say. It's really easy for us to, go straight ahead, focus on work, focus on the things, and like our body's telling us that it's tired, our body's telling us that our period pain. It's like, do you mind? Can you be quiet? Like I'm trying to do stuff here, and we just like push it down because it's in the way and it's annoying. We just
Mhm.
keep doing the thing we want to do. But when we can like acknowledge what the body's saying, and then us as naturopathic practitioners can interpret that, that's when you get something beautiful.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is I see my job a little bit as a translator.
Definitely.
Like some body is showing them symptoms, but they don't necessarily speak the language that their body is speaking to them. So it's just about empowering women like you do and just putting them back in touch with their bodies and allowing them to understand that, okay, my period pain means X, Y, and Z. It's not out to get me, right?
Oh,
Speak the language of my body's symptoms. And you just have to educate and connect the two. And then when you know, okay, I feel anxious, this is my body telling me something versus I am broken. Oh,
oh
big shift.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's like, I am on my team. Like we are one, my body and my goals. Like if I just keep rushing forward and not pay attention to this vessel that I am.
Ooh,
And it's not even a vessel, it's just like this thing, she, her, me. If I keep pushing forward and don't paying it, like stop paying attention to what she needs, eventually the car's going to break down and I'm not going to be able to get to where I need to go. And it's like
mhm.
the squeaky wheel. It's like that weird rattle that happens when you turn the engine on. It's like the windshield wipers that are squeaking. Like these are all signs that we need to start paying attention to. Maybe we need some new brakes. Maybe we need to fix the, I don't know, what's it, car mechanic part that I don't know the name of. That's why we go to mechanics, because they know the names of these things. And like, it's up to us to listen to those signs that the car is telling us that it needs attention. And then those signs as well that our body is telling us that it needs that attention too.
Yeah. But if you don't speak the language,
Oh,
like I don't speak the language either, I'm not going to understand what's going on. So I need somebody to translate that for me. And I feel like that's what we do in our jobs every day.
definitely, definitely. And that kind of goes with like, I know you mentioned your massive passion in chronic pain and immune system and endometriosis in particular, which is a combo of all of those. That's kind of where like we both differ as people and practitioners. We're all different. Like that's kind of the point. And my focus with helping women transition off of IUD and birth control, obviously that's not the only thing that we're able to do. Obviously you're not pigeonholed into endometriosis, but like you are the girl to go to. But apart from that, that's kind of where that reconnection with your body comes from. Because I know from my, I don't know, 10 plus years on hormonal contraceptives,
Yeah.
you're not you. Like the Snickers commercial, you're not you when you're hungry. You're not you when you're on hormonal contraceptives. And that's where like we're almost living in this fog, we're living in this cloud, and we don't know it because it's just been turned up and up a little bit, tiniest bit every single day that you're on these contraceptives. That by the time you come off, it's almost like, whoa, I can't believe I was living under that, in that, within that for 10 plus years. It's this massive cloud that ends up getting lifted. And that's kind of where this like empowerment comes in, and that connection, because like women are tired of not, they're tired of feeling sick and tired, they're tired of not feeling themselves, they're tired of, but they don't know what themselves is, they don't know what it feels like to feel themselves.
And then I find too with women who are coming off the pill, and I'm curious, Maya, if you're seeing this as well. It's almost like a death and a rebirth
Oh
because
my god.
yeah, you're seeing this too.
Mm.